Wow, it's been a long day here in Manchester for the PTQ Dragons Maze, and we're looking at the last game of Magic for the day. Raoul Zimmerman, finishing top of the Swiss, is starting game 3 against Cyrus Bales. Now, a little bit about the old sideboard. We talked about what would be happening game 2. I'm just wondering whether they would maybe do anything slightly different, given that you're maybe on the play or on the draw accordingly.
The only thing they might do differently is that they might do something with their discard spells. Raoul may feel that they're more prevalent on the play than on the draw, so Cyrus might re-sideboard based on that. It's not the greatest hand from Raoul, sorry, not from Raoul, from Cyrus there. Looks like he's got 3 land, 2 4-drops, 2 Tarmogoyfs was the handicap there.
So he's losing a Tarmogoyf, right?
Yep, it's the only thing you can take. Believe that's a Tarmogoyf anyway. Yeah.
It's so shiny.
Yeah. Speaking of Tarmogoyf, there it is.
Now these guys are just going to butt heads for a bit, unless someone's brave enough to kind of bluff having a burn spell or some kind of removal spell on top of that.
Yeah. Both Tarmogoyfs 3/4 at the moment.
Certainly one of the arguments for attacking is that your opponent...
I see Path to Exile, I think, in Raoul's hand, but that's Thoughtseize.
How about a Tarmogoyf?
Yeah. And a Deathrite Shaman.
So at this point I think Raoul's really on the defensive. You know, he's stripped Cyrus's hand of the good stuff, so now he just wants to make sure Cyrus can't get the jump on him.
Yeah, it may have been Thrun actually
deck
that he took there rather than Tarmogoyf, because
there was a Thrun, was there,
yeah,
in his 4-drops?
Taking Obstinate Baloth would not be the optimal play there. I have seen it happen.
He's played out his other Tarmogoyf then?
Yeah, he played out his first. The first one got discarded, the second one he played out. Just a quick life total check now.
And now to exile.
That surprises me a little bit there, the way Raoul played that, because I would have expected him to tap his Godless Shrine for it, because the way he's played it there, he removed the only land that was in anyone's graveyard from the game, so he actually shrunk his own Tarmogoyf before attacking there. So I think he's probably missed a point of damage there, but you know, in the scheme of things, can matter an awful lot. But I mean, he's going to let the board's going to stay the same no matter what. But you know, maybe he's I think maybe he's missed a point in the way he did it there.
He's just that's the thing. He's figuring he's tapping out that turn. He's just not realising how he's tapping out.
Yep. Baloth from Cyrus there.
Raoul just really wants to get to that 4-mana himself.
Yep. He wouldn't mind making the Tarmogoyf a bit bigger if he could. And Dark Confident there from Raoul. So at this point I think that he's perfectly happy just to play the waiting game now.
Well, the thing about Raoul is he's pretty confident that the Confidant is going to stick at this point.
Yeah.
Cyrus had a removal spell. Probably would have been pointed at a Tarmogoyf before now.
Or the Smiter, either of them. So he's confident it's going to stick, but the other thing he's confident about is that he's not going to end up killing himself using his own Dark Confident. And if he can just continue to draw 2 cards a turn, he's just going to bury Cyrus in card advantage here. And yeah, he's gaining life with the Dark Confident at this point, so he's
with the Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, with the Deathrite Shaman. He's certainly not gaining life with Dark Confident. How good would that card be? But
Or if you drew a card that had -3 casting cost.
or it had you gain life as opposed to lose life, according to the card. Anyway, the Dark Confidant revealed Lingering Souls, and there we go. So Raoul's just basically erecting a wall at this point and just going to...
Probably just going to alpha him.
Yeah.
In about 3 turns time.
I mean, Cyrus has 2 man lands in play.
And he has some sweepers in his deck as well to help sort of claw a little bit of this back.
So, you know, Raoul certainly hasn't won yet. He's just trying to make sure that he doesn't lose to an alpha strike back from Cyrus at this point.
Well, he has to keep any fatty on defence in case all of the guys with 2 toughness get swept into the bin.
Yep. I mean, if Cyrus can top Olivia here or something like that, that's going to be that'd be a pretty big game for him. You could just start either shooting down Raoul's tokens or you know, stealing his creatures one by one. The one advantage of flooding if you're on Jund if you have Olivia in your deck. You see Cyrus just separating all his man lands out at this point, trying to figure out what his optimum attack is. If you're in Cyrus's position, you've got to put pressure on Raoul's life total if you can, because otherwise that confidence is just going to run away with the game. Two mana from Cyrus, and he abrupt decays the Tarmogoyf. So I suppose
now
that's
we're just back to crap monsters for Raoul.
And interesting decision here for Raoul. He's got either the Raging Ravine or the Obstinate Baloth to throw his 4/4 in front of. And this is a pretty interesting decision because he's got a couple of things to weigh up with which creature he wants to take out with his Loxodon Smiter. Because the idea is obviously the Raging Ravine can grow every turn, but can still be held off by Lingering Souls. And the Obstinate Baloth obviously can't grow every turn, but the other side is that Cyrus has to pay mana every turn to activate that Raging Ravine, so maybe Raoul believes...
Keeping the creature on the board also has the timely reinforcements.
Yep. And that's Zealous Persecution for Raoul. Also, putting 2 creatures in the graveyard gives Deathrite Shaman a bit more food. So a little bit of tension for Raoul here, because those manlands are presenting a very credible threat to him at this point.
But it's an either-or situation. You're either going to play the card you've drawn, or you're going to beat him up. So maybe you just swing for 2, gain 2 life, and hopefully draw into some threat at some point.
Mm. Very tense because obviously in the final of a PTQ you really don't want to be making a mistake at this point. It is kind of a knife edge because that Dark Confidence is certainly giving him reason to be worried off the top of his deck. We're not seeing the standard Dark Confident plays which used to happen with the old Jund deck constantly. I think I've seen someone hit 7 lands in a row with Dark Confident, just like not taking any damage whatsoever. Two cards in hand for Cyrus.
Luckily for you guys watching on YouTube, you have a fast forward button at this point. I'm sure Judge will be along shortly to make sure things keep progressing.
And Raoul attacking with his Dark Confident there. So
even though the rounds are untimed, you still have to progress the game state at a reasonable pace.
Yep, and I believe that's Thron for Raoul, so...
That's certainly a good drop.
Yep, Ground Gummer. And really, Cyrus probably at this point now can't go on the manland. Can't rely on those treetop villages getting all the way through now.
That's what happens when stuff regenerates.
Yep, and Chump.
Certainly just wants to keep throwing around to that.
Yep. Path to Exile, that's a good cat. That's a good draw for Raoul there.
No, he definitely can't go down the manland route.
I think Raoul would appreciate it if he found a fourth land at some point here, having drawn all these extra cards. Oh, there goes some of the graveyard. I mean, Raoul definitely knows he's on a... you know, he might be on a little bit of borrowed time here, because I think
I think you can definitely say if Cyrus had drawn 2 less land and 2 more spells, the game might be going in the other direction.
Yeah.
Like, quite heavily.
Yep. Raoul flashes back Lingering Souls again.
Raoul's always done just enough. Just enough to stay in this game.
Yeah. And Raoul once again misses his 4th land drop. He is, you know... It's a good job he's got that Dark Confident there doing work for him.
It's funny how events conspire in this way, you know. As we say it again, you know, just enough mana. You know, if that Deathrite Shaman had been removed from the game, say 7 turns earlier, I think Cyrus would have won this one.
Yep.
So, you know, one more removal spell from Cyrus in the early game. And it's just funny getting all the way to the final and just having really a PTQ sort of turn on just, you know, on that sort of one card being or not being there in this situation. And it's really what I think frustrates a lot of people about Magic.
I mean, also if Cyrus had something like a Rakdos Charm here, that's...
Oh, he's had plenty of turns to to play one of those out and change the game as well.
Yep. Again, just 1 man short here of activating all of his manlands.
I mean, whoever, you know, comes out with the win has certainly deserved it. They both played very well throughout the whole course of the tournament.
Yep. Another Raging Ravine there from Cyrus. So.
And this is generally what happens when 2 people who don't make a lot of mistakes at all play each other, is that the actual... what's on the top of your deck tends to be the most influential factor.
Raoul just went aggro with his Deathrite Shaman and he took another 3 off his Dark Confidence, so he's definitely entering the danger zone here as far as life totals go.
Gonna have to start swinging soon.
Yeah, because that Dark Confident is not being kind to Raoul at the moment.
Now we've seen this quite a bit before, the amount of games that you end up playing that all come down to a Dark Confident trigger.
Yeah, we do apologise for the jump cut there, but you can see the attack that Raoul ended up making, and he's cast another Lingering Souls in the meantime, so he's got a sizable blocking army out again. Again, Dark Confident and the 2 tokens swinging. So please feel free to block my Dark Confident, that's fine. I remember at this point Cyrus actually saying, I hope you hit Baneslayer Angel off the top, and because Raoul didn't say anything, he just went, you've got Baneslayer Angel in your deck, haven't you? Two treetop villages coming in. Now what do you do here? Knowing that you have Baneslayer Angel in your deck if you're Raoul.
Well, you're definitely blocking. There's nothing else you can do really apart from block. Too many 3 drops.
It's like Treetop Village's trample being relevant here. Do you just take 3, go back up to 5, do you think? Block one of the Treetop Villages, then take 3, go to 5?
Or you can do it during your upkeep as well.
Well, he's got an active death right here, so yeah, he can actually go up to 7 if he wishes.
The thing is, I don't see him...
he's using his Path to Exile on the other Treetop Village. You may have more land. And really, I think that might have been Cyrus's last throw of the dice there, because that Thrun isn't going to, you know, unless Cyrus has Rakdos Charmer and has just been slow rolling it. Death right of his own. But I'm afraid things are looking pretty appalling for Cyrus here, because there is a big attack coming his way this turn. Okay, Raoul, what's on the top of your deck? Or are you going to use your Deathrite Shaman? I think he just holds the Deathrite Shaman back here and attacks with everything. He does have the Zealous Persecution in hand as well, so he can just Alpha Strike and kill here. And Cyrus knows that Raoul has that Zealous Persecution as well.
Saw it a long time ago.
Yep. So this should be Raoul's moment. I think he's just working out at this point, is there any way I can possibly lose from this situation? And I think that unless Cyrus has been expertly slow playing Rakdos Charm, the answer is no, you can't lose from this situation.
Still going to stare him down for a few minutes, you know, that's what Magic players are like when they know they've lost. They never like to scoop the cards up. I don't think Cyrus's stare down is going to stop Raoul from swinging in here. The arms cross usually really does suggest that someone's had enough of the day and wants to go home.
I don't know, maybe he could be slow rolling.
Raoul's just doing the old, another classic Magic player, the old finger count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, tapping the table for each point of damage you're going to do in, and the Alpha Strike's just the way to go here.
Attack for approximately 5 billion.
So Cyrus scoops them up, and we congratulate Raoul on winning this PTQ in Manchester, but also thanks to everyone for watching, and I hope particularly, because we've tried something different today, and something we will try again in the future should we get the feedback for it, which is really just to try and help all of us in our quest to win one of these PTQs, obviously with a huge slice of luck along the way. But I think the 4 guys we followed, and certainly the stories that they told along the way, was a pretty good indication of how actually making some effort in Magic shows some rewards. In other words, you know, you get to have a chance at the top 8, right, Boomer?
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who put the effort in, those of you who do watch Modo or even play on Modo, put effort into your decks, put effort into learning the format, you can certainly see how that has borne fruit as far as our players go, and also from Raoul and Cyrus as well, because I know that they both put a lot of effort in. They're very knowledgeable about Magic. They have a circle of players who they play a lot with and do a lot of theorising with, and
in fact, you know, here's another look at sort of Raoul's deck, and you know, a couple of the sort of cheeky little one drops, like we said, one of the one-offs, should I say, actually ended up winning him the game there at the end.
Yep, the Zealous Persecution,
and that's just due to how well it works with a massive amount of tokens, I guess.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a card that really is only seen playing sort of gifts, ungiven, or teachings deck. It's sort of a sideboard card, but it's just such a devastating card.
I would say it screws up calculations. That's its most powerful thing. That your opponent goes like, well, I can swing for this, he can swing for that, and it sort of it reduces that clock by like 1 or 2 turns shorter than you imagine. So very often you might tap out thinking he can only sort of swing for 4 next turn.
Yeah, and it turns out he can swing for 8.
He can swing for 8 and also, like kill your, I don't know, Vendilion Click or something that was going to be blocking.
Yeah, it's also good for Tarmogoyf trade as well, when someone thinks they've got a Tarmogoyf trade and it turns out they actually haven't and their Tarmogoyf dies.
So certainly some interesting decks, I think, got through to this top 8. I don't think there was anything unsuspected. I don't think rogue decks exist anymore in this format.
They do to a certain extent. I mean,
it's more rogue cards in regular decks.
The way I would describe a rogue deck these days is one that people are unprepared for, because it's like Matt Light on both the PTQs we've covered. Obviously in the first PTQ at Liverpool he played the Slippery Bogle deck, and here he's played Red, White, Blue Pure Control. Now in terms of the knowledge of the overall field, those 2 decks would have to be considered rogue decks, because
they weren't rogue decks on Magic Online, but not that many UK players actually put the time and effort into looking at that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have seen what the Bogle deck had been doing on Magic Online for weeks, you would have. I was very surprised that only 2 copies of that deck turned up at Liverpool.
And for the week directly previous to this tournament, as Matt Light pointed out in one of the early videos, the deck he was playing was pulling in some phenomenal results on Magic Online.
Yes, it was. It was pretty dominant on Magic Online.
Now, we want to have a brief shout out to a few of our players from the Liverpool area who actually, the week after this, went up to play some standard at a Grand Prix, and one of the guys, who went 3-2, Jack, he put in a very strong performance at the Grand Prix. If you want to tell us about that.
Yeah, Jack, in fact, top 32 the recent Grand Prix. So.
Up until 2 rounds before the end, of course, was actually looking at a top 8.
Yes, he was in contention while top
he
8.
Lost his next to last round, which meant he actually ID'd his last round to make a top 32 finish. And I don't know, what is it, $100 or something?
I don't know what a top 32 is for. It's certainly
pays for a curry or something.
Depends where you are in the world, I suppose.
But it's a good example of how, from getting a top 32 finish at a Grand Prix, you can most definitely say that he's a solid player. Yet here he is going 3-2 in a PTQ that we talked about throughout the whole length of the day was a considerably softer field than a day 2 field of a Grand Prix, where you're just going to hit good play after a good play, because all of these guys are like 7-2 or 8-1 and something ridiculous like that. And this comes back to the mindset of the Magic player, which is that you can build the right deck, you can play perfectly, and like, if the cards don't fall for you, there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, Jack has a phenomenal record in 2012 and early 2013. I don't think there was a more consistent player on the PTQ circuit.
Let's actually talk about how many PTQ top 8s he made. He actually made every single one he attended, bar 1.
2, I believe. It was the 2 that we covered are the 2 he hasn't made top 8.
Up until this last weekend right now, where you see him going 3-2.
Yeah, I believe before the Manchester PTQ, I believe his record was 5 top 4s out of 6, or 5 top 8s out of 6 in PTQs. He was just phenomenally consistent in the PTQs that he'd attended. More
important than all that is that some people, if they have that kind of record, they really let it get to them, because they're like, I think the one thing about Magic that you really have to sort of push out of your mind is that you're somehow entitled to win a PTQ, or you somehow feel because you've made 5 top 8s, it's like, you know, I deserve to win. It's like, if you can get rid of it, because you don't, you know, the person who wins the tournament is the guy who deserves to win.
Exactly.
You might have been the best player, you might have turned up with the best deck, but you know, very often entitlement causes, you know, sort of a tilt and a few bad decisions.
Yeah, I think that Jack's definitely someone who doesn't let that get to him too much.
Yeah, I think that side of sort of the mental game of Magic is often overlooked. You know?
I think it's overlooked in most gaming, to tell you the truth. I think when you get up to a certain level, when you are playing against, you know, you're playing against players of comparable technical ability, it's who has the ability to hold their mental game together who's often going to triumph over it. The person who can shake off making a terrible mistake, or, you know,
if you've got 2 players who are basically playing optimally, it's the only edge you have is not to play suboptimally.
Yeah.
Then you can't play better than the other guy. All you can do is make sure that you don't play worse than the other guy by making mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, and that was certainly, if you go like 10 years ago, that was the idea you got when you sort of, for people who were playing Kaibudu, it's like, this guy is not going to make a mistake.
Yeah. And that puts you under such pressure when you know that the opponent is not going to make a mistake. And many players playing against players like that will often just beat themselves, because they'll just put themselves under so much pressure that they are inevitably going to make a mistake. And to be fair, Magic's come along a very long way over that period of time. I would say that 10 years ago, if you were at a UK PTQ, all you needed to do to make a top 8 was not make a boneheaded mistake during the switch.
I think it was just get a net deck.
Pretty much, it might even have been just get a net deck to top 8 a PTQ.
There were still so many rogue decks and just sort of quite a lot of casual players, you know, and people very much did sort of their testing on their own, but the scene's completely changed now. It's a game of absolute information.
In terms of decks, yes.
You really have to go out there and just sort of trawl through the wealth of information and separate what is useful from what isn't. And we certainly hope that what we're sharing with you today, and indeed, you know, in the forthcoming PTQs for next season, you will find interesting. But I feel that's as good a place as any to wrap it up from us at Caravel Gaming. So please subscribe if you like what you hear, and also please leave feedback so that we can provide a sort of a much better experience in future. Maybe you want to hear us talking a lot less, and you want to hear a lot more people like Matt Light and Rob Wagner and Jack, and we thank all of those who we've interviewed over the course of the day. And so from myself and Boomer, good night.